I'm sorry about that. Um, let me see if I can position my laptop a little bit better. Hold on just one moment. Well, hopefully it'll improve in a bit. My apologies. I can guarantee you that the recording is going to be absolutely fine. If it starts getting really bad, please let me know, and I'll work and see if I can get another workaround here. Maybe even restarting up the webinar to make sure that we have the best connection we can. Does that sound good? How am I sounding right now? Sound is good? Okay. All right. Just give me a heads up if it starts getting bad. Thank you, Simon, for the heads up. And thank you guys for the feedback. Okay. Well, I'll try and not speed around so much. I have a tendency to like spin my model around a lot as I move. I'll do that a little less, and hopefully that'll help right now. I'll be back in the office on Monday, so I can guarantee that we'll have a better connection. Unfortunately, I'm in West LA, and for some reason, in LA in general, there's next to no fiber optics in LA. So we're stuck with DSL, which isn't always the best. So for the feathers, I'll almost just leave it at this. You know, I can elaborate and sort of get some separations in here, but I really like that to be driven by my painted displacement map, or by my displacement map that I'm going to generate based off a texture. So I'm going to leave this be for right now. I think you guys can get what I'm doing. You start out rough and then just elaborate and bring it in, right? It's just that the same way I look at retopology. You start out simple and then you build in your complexity. So now let's take a look at some fur, and then I'll move on to fiber mesh. Because with fiber mesh, you start getting some really cool stuff going on. Planar hair, planar feathers using fiber mesh, you can get some really cool stuff. I mean, look at it this way. Every Final Fantasy game has used, I think all the way up, yeah, every single Final Fantasy game has used planar hair. Last of Us was all planar hair, and it looked freaking beautiful. So let's go ahead and hide the wings while we do this. The way that I start out planar hair is the way I start out sculptural hair is very similar to the way I'm doing the feathers, right? Except for my strokes are a little bit different. So the overlap is from front to back, right? So if I was going from the scalp to the back of the head, I would start in the back of the head. On the rear here, I would start in the back, right? And then work my way forward. So I'm going to do a little hair area in the back here to demo for you. And then I'll go on to fiber mesh. So let me go ahead and save really fast. I'm just going to do some strokes that look something like this. And I'm going to go through and I'm thinking about platelets of hair, right, that are moving around each other. So I'm thinking about the groupings that I'm going to form in this area, and whether it's short hair or long hair, right? And that's going to determine the length of my stroke. Let me see if this improves my audio too. I'm just going to kill Chrome. Then I'll move forward and I'll just start blocking out a second row of hairs. And I'll kind of stagger the row in. So some platelets will be forward, some will be back. Longer hair, I'm going to get twisting. And then I'm going to start thinking about larger movements of hair, right? So I start with sort of some sketchy strokes, and then I start seeing some forms, and I start building out some larger movements. So this is all just with clay buildup. So this is the additive part of the process before I start going in and doing the subtractive part of the process. And sort of the pattern I'm looking at for this hair and what I'm going to end up building is sort of these shapes. Want hairs moving in, hairs coming out in between. But I'm also warping them around and mixing it up and how they're doing that. But that's the basic shapes. Those are the shapes that I'm looking at. And I'm going to repeat those going through this. Go ahead and turn off that symmetry. He has a little mane coming off of his back. Now, if this is going to be a large buildup of hair, of sculptural hair, I'll want to go down to my lower subdivision and express it. If it's anything more than just that, than just texture on the surface, I'll want to come down here if it's a large buildup of hair. And this is something I maybe would want to consider to have modeled in if it was that large of a feature of the character, right? But if it's large, you want it to break the silhouette. Right, if it's a big buildup of hair. If it doesn't break the silhouette, if it's sort of, you're sort of just digging in really deep here and you're expecting your normal map to sort of capture everything, as you want to make sure, all I'm saying is you want to make sure that it's expressed down at the lower subdivisions and that you know what it's going to look like from your exporting subdivision. So you'll want to go down to the subdivision that you're exporting from and see what your silhouette looks like. See if it's expressed the way that you want it to be expressed in your silhouette. Maybe you might want to consider going back into Maya and making a couple extrusions, right, in this area so that you get some lift in that area where you actually get hair that's breaking the silhouette. But from here, I'm going to start coming in with a dam standard. I'm going to lightly smooth. Actually, let's go ahead and use a less destructive process. I'm going to use hard polish. And I'll do all this asymmetrically, just because doing the hair, if you, like for the first pass, doing it symmetrically in parts is fine. I'd say after that, you'll want to break symmetry, do it asymmetrical, unless you plan on doubling over your map, like I was mentioning earlier, where you just UV, you have overlapping UVs. So you're really just using one side for normal and displacement, but you're doubling over your UVs and overlapping them so that they are reading from the same texture or same part of the texture. All right, now let's go into the Damian standard or dam standard. And I'll start with some larger strokes before I go in and do anything fine on the surface. Are you guys seeing this okay? I mean, I know you'll be able to catch it on the recording. On my end, the recording will be fine. But I want you guys to at least be able to ask some questions and follow along somewhat. Okay, thanks Ash for the feedback. So what I'm doing right now is not anything really. I'm still a ways from being done, but right now I'm kind of building out my platelets, right? So I've kind of roughed them out, and now I'm firmly establishing them. And then I'll go into further elaboration after this pass. On the ends here, I'm just going to come in, kind of blend that in. And I'm just cutting in at the moment. But I'll also want to go in to an additive pass with the dam standard. There we go. And after a while, you'll get into a rhythm doing this. It becomes sort of zen, going through this. All right, thanks, Simon. So that's a more completed area, but it's still not 100%. And you can see that at the resolution that I'm at, it's still pretty choppy, right? And you can see maybe why I might want to paint out paint out my maps afterwards inside of Photoshop, just because of how jagged this is, right? I mean, like I said, I could subdivide up one more subdivision, but it's not gonna fly inside of Maya. Let's see, here's another question. Is it important to have UVs at this point? I'll do temporary UVs at this point, but typically I save UVs till the very end. Just because the only reason why I'd want UVs at this point is to use it in conjunction with maybe tileable textures or tileable tileable color textures or tileable like bump maps that I'd be using with surface noise, where I'd want to maybe do some blanket passes over here with maybe like a short fur texture. But typically I don't even touch my UVs until the very end, because if I have to go back to Maya for anything, or if I have to, even in the process of just it being in ZBrush and saving out, and opening it up, I've seen ZBrush destroy UVs that I brought in from Maya. But the solution that we're gonna use for UVs is we're gonna export our lowest subdivision. We're gonna bring that into Maya. We're gonna establish our UV borders in Maya. And then we're going to come in and let UV Master build our UVs for us after we establish our border edges. I'm going to go really large at the dam standard and start getting some much larger movements going on here on the surface, because I feel like everything is at the same value.